Picture two students the night before a big exam. One has been at their desk for 6 hours straight, highlighter in hand, rereading every page of the textbook. The other studied for 90 minutes, closed the laptop, and went to hang out with friends. The next day, the second student scores higher. That's not luck. That's a completely different approach to how studying actually works. Most of us were never taught how to study. We were just told to study more whenever our grades slipped. So we did more of the same ineffective thing, rereading, highlighting, cramming the night before, and hoping it would somehow stick. Today I'm breaking down 8 science-backed techniques that let you study in a fraction of the time while retaining more. None of these require natural genius or some rare gift. They just require doing the right things instead of the exhausting things. 1. Fuel your brain. Don't sabotage it. Let's start somewhere most people don't expect, your snack drawer. When exam stress hits, the instinct is to reach for something sweet. Candy, soda, energy drinks. It feels comforting in the moment, but it works against you. Blood sugar spikes are followed by crashes, and during that crash your concentration and short-term memory both take a hit. Your brain runs on glucose, but a flood of refined sugar creates instability rather than steady fuel. Swap it out. Foods with steady release energy and healthy fats, walnuts, salmon, blueberries, eggs, support sustained attention instead of a sugar roller coaster. This isn't about a strict diet. It's about giving your brain fuel that lasts through a 2-hour study block instead of 45 minutes. 2. Reframe the task before you start. Here's something almost nobody talks about. The story you tell yourself about studying changes how your brain performs the task. If you sit down thinking, this is going to be miserable and take forever, your brain treats it like a threat. Stress hormones rise, focus narrows in the wrong way, and time seems to crawl. But if you reframe the same task, I'm just going to knock out this one chapter, then I'm done. Your nervous system responds completely differently. This isn't wishful thinking. It's related to how expectation shapes physiological response. Try this the next time you open your notes. Instead of, I'll never understand this, say, I'll get through the confusing part first, then it gets easier. Instead of, this is going to take all night, commit to, I'm giving this 45 minutes. The workload doesn't change, but your relationship to it does, and that changes how efficiently you move through it. 3. Set a timer and let pressure work for you. There's a well-known idea in productivity. A task will expand to fill whatever time you give it. Tell yourself you have all evening to study one chapter, and somehow it takes all evening, full of bathroom breaks, phone checks, and rereading the same paragraph 3 times. Flip it. Set a timer for a defined, slightly ambitious chunk of time, say 25 or 40 minutes, and treat it like a countdown clock in a game. Something shifts mentally when there's a ticking constraint. Distractions get pushed aside, and you move through material with more urgency and less wandering. The key is calibration. Too short, and you'll panic and retain nothing. Too long, and you're back to lazy drifting. Find the number that makes you slightly uncomfortable but not overwhelmed, and build your sessions around short, timed sprints rather than open-ended marathons. 4. Study the 20% that matters most. Not all material is created equal. In almost every course, a relatively small portion of the content accounts for most of what actually shows up on the test. The other material is either background context, minor detail, or something the professor mentioned once in passing. Instead of treating every page with equal seriousness, get strategic. Look at past exams, practice questions, and whatever your professor emphasizes repeatedly in lecture. That repetition is a signal. Build your study session around that core rather than starting from page 1 and working forward chronologically, hoping you'll get to the important stuff eventually. Ask yourself before every session, if I only had time for 3 things, what would they be? Start there. You'll often find that a focused hour on the right material beats 4 unfocused hours covering everything equally. 5. Work backward. From the questions. Most students study by reading, page after page, hoping the information sinks in through repeated exposure. but reading is passive. A far more effective approach is to work backward. Start with the questions you'll actually be asked, then figure out what you need to know to answer them. Practice problems. Review questions at the end of chapters. And old exams reveal exactly how information gets tested. Not just what topics matter, but the format and phrasing the material will come in. Studying this way forces active recall instead of passive recognition, and it trains you to think the way the exam is structured rather than the way the textbook is organized. If you only have an hour before a test, spending that hour doing practice questions will almost always outperform spending it rereading notes. 6. Attack your weak points, not your strong ones. There's a comforting trap that almost everyone falls into: reviewing the material you already understand. It feels productive. You breeze through it. Everything makes sense, and you get a little confidence boost. But it does almost nothing for your actual exam performance, because you already knew that material. Real growth happens in the uncomfortable zone, the topics you've been avoiding because they're confusing or tedious. That's where your score is actually being lost. Force yourself to spend the majority of your limited time there instead. A bonus technique here: try connecting topics across subjects rather than studying them in isolation. If you're learning about the immune system, don't stop at memorizing cell types. Connect it to related concepts like inflammation, chronic disease, or genetics if they're covered elsewhere in your coursework. Building these cross-topic links deepens understanding and makes recall easier, because your brain isn't storing isolated facts, it's storing a connected web. 7. Use AI as a study partner, not a shortcut. AI tools have become one of the most underused resources in modern studying, not because people don't know they exist, but because most people use them shallowly, just asking for a definition here and there. Used properly, an AI assistant can quiz you with practice questions, explain a concept 3 different ways until one clicks, generate a condensed summary of a dense chapter, or even help you build a structured study schedule based on your remaining time and material. Think of it less like a search engine and more like a tutor available at 1 a.m. the night before a test, one who never gets tired of your questions. The skill worth building isn't just using AI, it's learning how to prompt it well. A vague question gets a vague answer. A specific, well-structured prompt, asking it to test you or to explain a concept at the level you're missing, gets something genuinely useful. 8. Keep a mistake log. This last one is simple but rarely done. Keep a running record of what you get wrong. Every time you miss a practice question, misunderstand a concept, or bomb a section on a past exam, write it down somewhere. A notebook, a notes app, whatever you'll actually revisit. Before your next test, review that list instead of starting from scratch. This does 2 things. First, it stops you from making the same mistake repeatedly, which is one of the most common and avoidable ways students lose points. Second, it gives you a personalized, high-value study guide built entirely from your actual gaps. Far more efficient than generic review material, because it's built from what you specifically need. None of these 8 techniques require extra hours in your day. In fact, they're designed to give you hours back. The goal isn't to work harder than everyone else, it's to stop wasting effort on low-value studying and redirect that same energy toward what actually moves the needle. The right fuel, the right mindset, the right time pressure, the right material, and a system for catching and fixing your own blind spots. Try picking just 2 or 3 of these to start, maybe the timer technique and focusing on your weak points, and build from there. Small shifts in how you study tend to matter far more than adding more hours to an already exhausting routine.